The Los Angeles Dodgers are one win away from the World Series, while the Toronto Blue Jays and Seattle Mariners can't seem to win a home game in the ALCS. This is MLB Game Night postseason edition.
When that final out is made, you know it's time for Locked On MLB Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On MLB Game Night. Your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into MLB Game Night postseason edition, where we cover every single game, every single night, all the way through the end of the World Series. I'm your host, Lindsey Crosby, host of the Locked On Braves postcast. Follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. At Handsome Fellow in the Expos hat, Steve Lennox, host of the Locked On Red Sox postcast. Follow him on the X at Lennox on Baseball. A lot of stuff to get to, despite only 2 games, Steve. I want to talk about Friday's doubleheader, obviously another day of 2 games. We love that. Talk about some vintage Max Scherzer and how the hardest job in baseball, it has to be taking Max Scherzer out of a game. But before we do that, I do want to start off with the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. At home, they entered tonight's game up in the series 2-0, and it was because phenomenal performances from Blake Snell, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Together, they had to use one reliever to get through those 2 games. Tyler Glasnow was on the mound today for LA. And here's our friends over from Locked On Dodgers to let you know about how this one went.
1 win in Game 3, 3-0 lead in the NLCS, 1 win away from a sweep. But things weren't as easy as in the first 2 games of the series for the boys in blue. The Brewers got traffic early on Tyler Glasnow, who was pulled before even hitting 100 pitches. Didn't even get to finish 6 innings. No problem. LA's bats only got 2 extra base hits in the game. Shohei Ohtani's leadoff triple in the first inning and Mookie Betts right after him with a double. No problem. The second inning in it, the Brewers finally did what they couldn't in Game 2. They got a runner in scoring position and brought him home. No problem. For all the hundreds of millions spent on this Dodgers roster, the game-changing play came from Max Muncy. Runner on third, 1 out, grounder to third, and Muncy makes an incredible throw to home to keep the game tied at 1. That's the same Max Muncy who signed a minor league deal with LA back in 2017 after getting cut by the A's. Any team could have had him, but the Dodgers saw something special in him. Jacob Mizrowski retired 15 of the first 16 Dodgers that he faced. He was lights out. He balled. But in the 6th, Will Smith broke through with a single. Freddie walked, and then Tommy Edman, in his 3rd time facing the Miz, he came through with the go-ahead RBI. Not gonna lie, I got nervous when the bullpen had to cover 3 1/3 innings, but they were nails. 1 base runner, a double off of Vesia, that's it. Trinan, Banda, Sasaki, untouchable. And right now, Milwaukee, they only got 9 hits total in the whole NLCS. The fewest throughout the first 3 games of any postseason series in 119 years. The Dodgers pitching is dominant. And tomorrow, Shohei Ohtani's on the mound, so good luck. LA is 1 win away from the Fall Classic. 5 from being the first back-to-back World Series champs in a quarter century. Can you imagine all the crying from the haters when that happens? I mean, Kleenex is going to make bank with all the tears that they're going to have to clear. Wait, is this thing still recording?
Little bit of a
love it
artistic license there. We're going to get to the Brewer side of this in a few minutes, right? But sticking with the Dodgers for a minute here. I don't know what's more surprising, that Glasnow couldn't make it out of that 6th inning, or that LA went to relievers that are actually relievers and they worked out. Because it feels like the recipe for LA in this postseason has been let your starters go deep, and then when that starter is done, just put another starter in out of the pen, because they can't seem to get reliable outings from the bullpen. But you heard him there. Vesia, Trinan, Banda all look great, and Saki has been a weapon here in the 9th.
Some guys in that bullpen right now, they're not going to see the light of day unless, it's a lopsided affair in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th innings. Dave Roberts has exactly what he wants to do. We talk often about, the front offices running lineups and running situations during the course of the game.
Mhm.
Dave Roberts right now is completely in sync with the front office. And we know the Dodgers have plenty of front office people, just like they have a huge payroll, right? So they're in sync right now, and they could really be looking. And Lindsay, I've agreed. I've believed in this for years and years.
Mhm.
Finish a series as quickly as possible. The Dodgers did that in the wild card round. They did it in winning in 4 games, 3-1 against the Phillies in the division round. They have a chance for a sweep. They would have 6 full days off, and they would be ready to go with their pitching for the World Series. And they're not going to be on fumes as well. So it's all lining up right now. I mean, Harry did a great job there with the recap. It is all lining up right now for LA.
They can set their rotation however they want to do it, and they can do all of that. And I don't know what's more impressive, that Shohei Ohtani finally actually got some production in the postseason, or just the fact that LA did all of this on 5 hits. And it's not like Milwaukee was giving them a bunch of extra base runners. They only walked 3 times. So three walks, 5 hits, but it's enough to win. And they did it without a homer. And I feel like even the teams that haven't been great with the power, like Milwaukee, one of the things they've been doing this postseason has been hitting a lot of homers. And just for this LA Dodgers lineup to win this game with 2 extra base hits, 5 total hits, and no home runs is a little bit surprising, just based on, it feels like Freddie will pop one every other game. It feels like Teoscar's been getting the big ones. This was just one big inning, and they carried it.
And I think it was Smoltz during the Blue Jays and Mariners with Joe Davis on the Fox broadcast, FS1. These teams aren't putting together 3-4 hits in 4 or 5 batter stretches. It is the long ball for the most part, but they did enough offensively. And again, their pitching is, and we'll get into the Brewers and their complete lack of hitting. Yeah. But the Dodgers right now are doing just enough. Ohtani's struggling, leadoff triple, bang, boom, blink of an eye. They're up 1-0 as Betts also comes through. The way Betts, I missed the Ohtani triple. So I went back after the half inning was over and watched it again. But Betts, I saw the RBI double. And then Betts in the 9th inning, that great play that he made in the top of the 9th inning defensively at shortstop. Yeah. These guys are playing with no pressure, it feels like. I mean, they know they have the talent. They know they have the payroll. They know they have anything and everything that they need to be successful. They're just going out there and playing baseball, and the Betts smile shows you they're having fun doing it.
Yep. House money right there. All right. Let's hear from the Brewer side of this, okay? Because it's spirits, as you can guess, a little bit different on this recap versus the Dodgers one.
I'm doing this in the 8th inning because I have no faith the Brewers are going to come back and win this game. Down 0-3 now in the series. I mean, that 2-run deficit is insurmountable in my book. Because I've seen this story before with the Milwaukee Brewers. I got a master's degree in watching that stuff. Hey everybody, Chuck Freeman, Instant Reaction, Locked On Brewers. Yeah, look at these beautiful trophy cases. Yeah. Be nice if we had a few of these, right? Oh yeah, the beautiful Dodger. Oh, over here, yeah, there's a few more. I don't have any of that stuff. I mean, maybe that's just what we are, a great regular season champion. One of those teams that just looks just unbelievable in the regular season, pulls games from out of nowhere, and all the magic happens. And everybody else, like these teams here, like the Dodgers, sit back and they go, we'll have our turn in the postseason. You guys he went 6-0 against us. Ha. And we come out here at 3 games right now, and the Brewers, tonight they had their first RBI base hit with a runner in scoring position since Game 3 against the Cubs. And it was Bowers who did it there too. God, look how many games that spanned. 5 games? Miz pitches his rear end off tonight. Again, looked just amazing. And we can't get any support for the guy?
I want to ask you about that. I want to cut him off real quick. I want to ask you about that. Aaron Ashby is the starter in this game. And we knew he wouldn't go very long, right? Triple to Shohei Ohtani, double to Mookie Betts. He strikes out Will Smith. Freddie Freeman walks. They go ahead and make the move there. Do you think it was they were worried that with Edman and Teoscar coming up, that inning would spiral? Or do you think the plan was always get past the big four so that Mizorowski doesn't have to face them a third time? Because I was surprised to see the pitching change in the first inning with only one run on the board.
And maybe you went to somebody else who you were just going to get 2/3 of an inning out of. That there was one guy. I was very surprised that Mizorowski came in that situation in the first inning. I really was. And they're fortunate that he was able to get out of it, and he gives them 5, just like Chuck said right there. He's been terrific. But really, why are we trying to reinvent the wheel here? I know we've had openers. We knew going in that the term is bulk guy. He was going to be the bulk guy. Well, why not just start him and let the go full 5? You don't want to be down early. And who knows? He could have given up the runs as well. But Ashby, he's just not the guy. I mean, he's been the guy multiple times here in the postseason where he's going to be your opener, and it didn't work. And in Game 3, down 2-0, losing the first 2 games of the series, you had to try something a little bit different. And I don't know why they couldn't have started Mizorowski. When they go to him in the first inning anyway, he comes in a high leverage situation, and he was, they're very fortunate they got out 1-0 in the first inning. It could have been a lot worse, and it could have been against him.
I think the bigger thing there too is they're lucky that he didn't immediately turn around in the second and get knocked around. We've seen so many times you take a young pitcher, you throw into a high leverage situation, and it's an adrenaline dump. They get out of it, and then they've got to turn around and go back out the next inning, and they get shelled. I mean, credit to the kid. He's really good. I mean, credit to him. But
you saw he got tired, and adrenaline is a big part of that as well, because, again, you're coming in from the bullpen. You're not going to the dugout, getting a glass of water, high-fiving your teammates and taking the field in the top of the first inning or the bottom of the first inning in a regular season game. This is down 2-0. I got to stop him right there. He was at 101. He was at 102. All of a sudden in that last inning that he pitched where he goes the 5 innings, but is charged with a run, both runs in that 6th inning, his fastball was 96, 97. It wasn't just loss in velocity. It was also a lot straighter than it was early on, too, because he's got nasty movement to go along with 100, 101, and 102.
He really does. Okay, so with Jackson Churio leaving, looked like he aggravated that hamstring injury he had late in the year. We had a great stat here. Shout out to Sarah Langs, as always, MLB.com. Teams with a 3-0 lead in a best-of-7 postseason series have won this 40 out of 41 times, including sweeping 31 times. Do the Dodgers, I think we both believe the Dodgers are going to win this. Do the Dodgers sweep with Ohtani on the mound? And we're going to preview all of this a little bit in the third segment, but do you think the Dodgers get the sweep here, or do you think that Milwaukee can get one out of them?
I say it's a sweep right now because just before we went on, it was still TBA. Who are they pitching in a must-win Game 4 to just extend it one more game? I don't think it goes back to Milwaukee, so maybe it's 3-1 after Friday night. But how are they setting up their pitching for a must-win Game 4 to avoid being swept? And by the way, the only team to win, 2004 Red Sox in the ALCS over the Yankees down 3-0, Dodgers manager Dave Roberts. He understands. Don't let them win Game 4. Because all of a sudden, are they going to win the next 2 in LA? They have to in order to get it back. I don't see the Dodgers getting on a plane going back to Milwaukee. I think they're going to have a couple of days off. Maybe they have, Saturday through next Thursday completely off and workouts, or maybe they have Sunday through next Thursday in Game 1 of the World Series a week from Friday.
Yep. Fine side I want to drop here. Fewest hits through the first 3 games of a playoff series in MLB history. The Brewers are tied with the 1906 White Sox with 9 hits through the first 3 games of a playoff series ever. What a stat. All right, in just a minute, when we come back, I want to hear from our friends over at Locked On Mariners about Blue Jays Mariners and how that game went, because nobody wants to win at home in the ALCS. We'll talk about that next right here on MLB Game Night. The NFL season's here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You just pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I'm personally a fan of how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, I've tried player props, and even just following the live lines during games. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So, what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Okay. Blue Jays at Mariners. Seattle's up 2-1 in this series entering Game 4 with a chance to really put themselves in the driver's seat. Here is Tydian Gonzalez from Locked On Mariners about what happened on Thursday.
Inning crushes the Mariners once again, and the ALCS is knotted up at 2 games apiece. This is Tydian Gonzalez, host of the Locked On Mariners podcast here. And this game went pretty much the same exact way as it did last night. Obviously didn't get as out of hand as last night did, but pretty much followed the same script. Mariners get an early home run, they get an early lead. Then the third inning comes around, and the Blue Jays get a leadoff double from their 8-hole hitter, which is immediately followed up by a 2-run Andres Gimenez home run. And the damage wasn't limited to just that either. The Blue Jays get another run in the third inning. They play add-on as this game moves along. And the Mariners offense just had no answers, even against the shell of Max Scherzer. And this continues an absolutely dreadful postseason run of offense at T-Mobile Park for the Mariners. And the home team still hasn't won a game in this series. Hopefully that changes tomorrow as the Mariners look to get back on top in this series and get within one win of their first ever World Series appearance with Bryce Miller on the bump. We'll see if they can get it done. We'll talk to you on the Locked On Mariners podcast. See you then. Peace.
Yeah, we can start with the offense, I guess. That Josh Naylor, 3 for 3, hits a home run.
Yep.
Outside of that, 2 hits. And it's funny because it feels like the story for the Mariners this year, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it feels like this team has been flawed. They're not very good defensively. They don't run the bases that well. But Cal Raleigh hit 60 homers. Julio had a 30-30 year. Randy Rosarena was a couple homers from his own 30-30 year. Josh Naylor got there and stole a bunch of bags late. Like, the stars were able to be stars, and that's what kind of got them into the postseason. And then at home in T-Mobile Park, we've seen them, to Ty's point, just forget how to hit. It feels like, other than Josh Naylor. Are they going to have to win this series in Toronto? Or, like, can they find offense at home?
They're going to have to find offense. These two teams, I think, parallel very well together because, from last year watching the Blue Jays play the Red Sox, and, they've got their stars. They've got Bichette, they've got Vladdy Jr., and he could leave, but he's locked up now. But it was those guys, the Clements, the Bargers, those other guys, the Straws. Those guys have really come on. When those guys, and for the Mariners too, Leo Rivas, Polanco, those guys have to do a little something. They don't have to carry the team the way, like you said, a Rodriguez or Cal Raleigh has during the season, but you need the contributions. Andres Gimenez, 4 RBIs on the night total, playing shortstop. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa got in the lineup as well. On Thursday night. Yep. Hadn't played in a while. These guys are your role players who are doing it. And one of them certainly wouldn't have been on the lineup. I mean, Jimenez can play on both sides of the second base bag, but is he more of a utility guy even so? Because you still don't have Bo Bichette in the lineup, one of your top hitters. But their other guys are coming through right now. Seattle does have that ability with the other guys, but if you shut them down, they're not on base. It creates this. I mean, Seattle fans in the late innings of Game 4 Thursday night were like Toronto fans after Game 2. We're down 0-2. Well, now it's 2-2, and nobody's won at home yet. But it becomes best 2 out of 3 at this point in time. Seattle's only got the one more home game.
Yeah, which may work out in their favor. I was a little bit surprised, and I don't know if surprised is the right word. The quick hook for Luis Castillo. And I think the reason I was surprised is because it made Seattle decide very quickly how hard they were going for this game. Like, they used Matt Brash in the 4th inning. Like, they went to one of their best relievers with some of the best stuff in baseball. Not Andre Munoz, but one of the very early in this game. And like, they were already down at, was it 5-2? I think 5. They had allowed 5 runs at that point. And it almost felt to me like maybe you give Castillo a little bit more of a leash versus going to Gabe Spear, who's faced Toronto a couple times already. If you're trying to keep this game close and winnable, and they just, for some reason, pulled him out. Like, was I just missing that maybe he wasn't the same caliber of pitcher tonight and he needed to leave this game?
I did feel like that he was, he was one more base, one more hitter, and it could have been more fuel on the fire. Okay. But like you said, with Brash, he gets 4 outs, throws 10 total pitches. Yeah, I felt like they used him there to see, okay, let's see if we can get back in it. We're 4 runs down.
They shut it down.
They got a run. But they got a run in the 6th inning, and that was it. The offense just wasn't coming around, and Dan Wilson decided, okay, are we throwing the white flag here? A little bit. Hancock had been good the other outing, but ends up giving, you knew when Hancock was in the game, he was probably giving you the 8th and the 9th inning. Gave up the 2 runs in his outing, and that just extended the lead. And, again, it was just, okay, we gotta live to fight another day, and that's what it's all about for Friday night for them.
Yeah. All right, when we come back, I want to talk about the Toronto side of this a little bit and then kind of preview preview the 2 games tomorrow, because we know some of the pitching matchups. We don't know the rest. A lot on the line here. We'll do that next right here on MLB Game Night. This episode's brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of the MLB playoffs with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Because playing Prize Picks is such a fun and simple way to add more excitement to the postseason. You just pick more or less on player projections, like Shohei Ohtani's total bases or Vlad Guerrero hitting a home run, and you're in the game. I love how quick it is. You can make your lineup in just under a minute. It's fun to follow other players in the app and copy their lineups with one click. And they have a super cool thing for football called stacks. So if I want to ride with a player, I can select their pass yards, their rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Lindsey Crosby, Steve Lennox here on MLB Game Night, and I want to talk about Max Scherzer because I know that he walked 4 guys tonight, but in his 5 2/3 innings, he did not want to come out in the 6th. He never wants to come out of a game. When he came out, he had allowed 3 hits and 1 run while striking out 5. Second run was charged to him after he departed. Is there a more surprising vintage throwback outing in this postseason than Max Scherzer going 5 2/3 with 1 earned run while he was in the game?
It's just, I just couldn't help but continue thinking. I mean, it's been a handful of weeks since he pitched. Mm-hmm. He did not have a good September at the end of the regular season. Nope. And you finally called upon him, and he answered the bell. And, Kershaw, we may have seen for a final time, and it did not go well. With Scherzer, perhaps, this is the 6th team he's pitched in the postseason for, which is just, it adds to his career. I think maybe what it did was it enables them to trust him to go out there at least one more time. And maybe it's in the bullpen at some point where he just says, you know what, I'm now available. You're not going to use me as a starter.
Final game.
Throw me in there. Final game, wherever it is, just pitch me 1 inning. And I'm gonna throw as hard as I can. I'm gonna throw that breaking ball that I used effectively in the start against the Mariners in Seattle in Game 4, and kind of go from there. It just gives them another option to have if they make it to the World Series against the Brewers or the Dodgers. Right now, it certainly looks like the Dodgers. But it was great to see. I mean, it was a Thursday night. We're on the other side, and I've watched all of 3 minutes of NFL football so far this year, Lindsey.
Same.
You had Aaron Rodgers. You had Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco, University of Delaware, Blue Jays manager. John Schneider played for Bob Hanna at the University of Delaware. The old guys, the early 40 guys, the guys at the end of their careers, boy, do they have great Thursday nights on the diamond and on the gridiron.
There you go. On the note of pitchers in the bullpen, apparently Brian Woo's expected to be available out of the bullpen for Game 5. That'll be Kevin Gausman versus Bryce Miller. Really interesting there. Yeah, Game 6 would be Toronto on Sunday. Game 7, if needed, would be Monday night in Toronto. Another Sarah Lang stat. We have a bunch of these here. Teams that lose games 1 and 2 and then win games 3 and 4 in a best of 7 postseason series win that series 43% of the time. So, we can't learn a lot from that. But what's interesting to me, in the 2-3-2 format, tied after Game 4, the team that's on the road in Game 5 wins that series more than half the time. I have a theory here. You touched on it with the Dodgers a little bit. Like, they're playing very loose because they know they've got the talent, they've got everything. I wonder if this situation is hey, Toronto's probably going to be pretty loose in Game 5 because they know if we can take this one, we've got 2 shots at home to win 1. And then part of me thinks the home team's not won a single game in this series yet, so you can't count on that. But it feels like that's going to be the game of the day tomorrow.
Yeah, and they flip-flop. You got Seattle and LA. And so the Dodgers had basically a late afternoon game on Thursday. They flip-flop, though. The Dodgers will be in the late slot for TV on Friday night. I don't know that shadows are necessarily an issue. I would imagine that the roof is open, maybe in Seattle, so so maybe that lessens the shadows as well that time of day. There was a note, I don't know if you caught it during the broadcast, the sideline reporter in the dugout, Pat Murphy, basically said, nobody can see anything up at the plate right now. You're kind of guessing. And she's like, and the follow-up was, well, when does this change? They knew in the 7th inning it'd be back to a little bit more hitter friendly.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're up there in Los Angeles, that time of the day, everyone knows it. I love day games in the postseason. I loved it, being able to sit down. It was 3:00 local time there, but it was 6:00 for me. But I love being able to turn the TV on at dinner time and the game is on. But it's no secret that's impossible to hit during that time of day at Dodger Stadium. So
letting Jacob Mizorowski throw 100 miles an hour when the batters can't even see the ball feels like it's not really that fair. And you heard him like in the Dodgers recap, he mentioned Mizorowski sat down like 13 of the first 14 or whatever it was. You have to think about like how much of that was the fact that they just had so much trouble picking up the ball coming across that divide from, sun and shade at that velocity and all that. Okay. So in this Game 5, because yes, we know Ohtani pitches for the Dodgers tomorrow night, 8:38 p.m. against Milwaukee's TBD, whoever that is. And if LA wins, they win the series. But I'm more interested in Toronto and Seattle because that's the one that's actually close. If each team wins, and we can take turns here, if Toronto wins or if Seattle wins, who is the player that we look back and say is the MVP of Game 5?
Of Game 5.
Of Game 5. So if Seattle wins, is this another game where Jorge Polanco is the hero because he's been so clutch with these postseason home runs? Or is this, does Cal Raleigh hit another postseason one? Julio Rodriguez kind of do one
That's
of
my
his,
choice right there.
Julio Rodriguez. Julio Rodriguez feels like he's the one that has the most ability, right? The most opportunities to influence the game because he can do it defensively. He can do it with a big hit. He can do it on the base paths as well. But part of me just thinks Cal's going to get one. Like Cal's going to get the home, like the home homer late, run into one. You saw how they kind of adjusted their bullpen usage tonight. Hoffman came out in the 8th.
Right.
To get the heart of the order. He got Raleigh, he got Julio. And that's now a couple times this series where Cal's seen Hoffman. And so I wonder, at what point does Cal get one over on, or does Cal get into one Hoffman can't slip past him. And I think tomorrow might be the day. If the Mariners win game 5, I think that's going to be why.
I like your thinking. And Hoffman, not like Scherzer, but I mean, he had an iffy suspect month of September.
Yeah.
So, you pitched him in that 8th inning. I like that. That was a strong move. And like you said, of where it dictated in the lineup, we'll use him in the 8th inning.
Made sense.
I'm. You're going Raleigh. I'm going. We're both. It seems like we're both going. Seattle's going to Toronto up 3-2. Okay. I'll go Julio. You're going the big dumper.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's flip that. If we have a minute here, if Toronto wins game 3, who is the hero for Toronto? Because it feels like Vlad Guerrero is the easy answer here.
Yeah.
But I think we maybe have underrated, and I'm curious if there's a lineup change here. I think we've underrated how good Ernie Clement has been in the postseason and even in the regular season, just how clutch he was for Toronto. And they're still batting him like 6th. Part of me wonders, do you bump him up a little bit? Kirk is hitting under his weight, right? Like he's like hit like 212. Do you drop Kirk down and put Clement up in that spot? Simply because like he goes 2 for 5 today. He's hitting like 450 in the postseason, OPS over 1,000.
I believe at least one time when the Blue Jays played the Red Sox in the regular season, Andres Jimenez was the cleanup hitter.
Okay. I can check that.
He could possibly move up. I mean, he knocked in 4 runs to even up the series at 2 games apiece, 8 RBIs.
Surprising with the homers. He's a different guy apparently when he's the when he's the shortstop. He's a different hitter. That's great.
So if you're talking about tinkering with the lineup, Santander, I didn't read the whole thing, but apparently the back issue, a lost first season for the Blue Jays. I really thought he would do something here in the postseason. It doesn't look like they're going to have him back. I haven't heard anything about Bichette the last couple of days. Maybe he's going to be ready for the World Series if they get there. But, John Schneider's done some interesting things with that lineup this year. He has moved guys around based on matchups, based on history. And, the history right now is Andres Jimenez is a 2-run home run and a 2-run single in game 4. Are you daring enough to move him up in the lineup? I believe at least one time he was the number 4 hitter in the lineup for the Jays against the Red Sox during the regular season.
Twice, April 7th and April 9th. Both. Springer got the middle game of the series at cleanup. And Jimenez.
Okay, so that was early on. I was thinking it was maybe middle of the season, but that was early on. And you always have to bring George Springer up too. In there. Vladdy, obviously, like you said, obvious choice. The easy choice. Springer to me is right behind him. Sort of like Cal and Julio on the other side, as we discussed.
Yep. All right, guys, we'll be back tomorrow to break down both of these games. Just because it'll be game night. Every single game, every single night, all the way through the postseason. For Steve Lennox, I'm Lindsey Crosby. We'll talk to you tomorrow.